Check podcasts.
The Bread and Butter Collective is a collection of hospitality professionals working together to help strengthen our industry to build strong culture, community, and sustainability.
I'm Kalen McNeil.
And I'm Sam Jones. And this is the Bread and Butter Podcast.
To the Bread and Butter Podcast. How are you, Sam?
I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How was your week been?
It was great. It was cold. We had that cold snap.
Yeah.
You had some political fire to keep everyone warm and like looking at their screens going, oh my God.
I hear about it and I just shake my head.
I watched it all.
Did you watch it all?
I watched it all.
You're supporting the algorithm, man.
No.
Shame.
I didn't. I put the rabbit ears up and I avoided them. I've got my ways. I'm
listened to it on the
like
radio.
that.
Okay.
That's right. AM only. I don't trust FM.
Yeah,
you know what? You know what the F and FM stands for? Follow. They're following you.
Oh, they're following you. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I was gonna. There's other F words. That
I knew you were going to go there.
Dirty mind.
Dirty birdie.
Another dirty birdie is our guest today.
Oh man, is that a good introduction?
Well, we've known each other for like decades.
It's a great segue.
This is the first time. Like,
Makes no sense, but it's a great segue.
It's a great
Dirty
segue.
birdie.
Dirty
Those
birdie.
are the best segues that just people go, oh, well, there's a story
Let's
behind
find
it.
out about the dirty birdie guy.
There is a story. Not.
Well, we can
Maybe.
fill up an hour figuring out how dirty you are, I
Right.
guess.
I can figure that out. Andrew Moyer, proprietor of Ottavio. I just know it as Ottavio.
Ottavio Italian Belly.
The Big O.
Deli. Yeah.
The Italian deli in Oak Bay.
Uh-huh.
His partner and wife is not formally, I guess, but of the Italian bakery family.
That's right.
Monica.
Monica.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monica. And he's here first time. I don't think he's ever done anything.
First time out of the house in the
First time
last
out of the
10
house.
years.
He's either like hunting pheasants or
True.
I don't know what else he's doing. Riding his motorcycle. How are you, Andrew?
Fantastic. Great. Yeah. Not
How
usually my
did
best
you
time
get
of
here
year, as
this
I was
morning?
saying to you, but nice and sunny and bright, and that's helping
Like, is
helping
that-
everybody.
Okay, why is it not like for you? Why is it not the best time?
There's no hobbies for me. No gardening, no hunting, no fishing, no
Like the
camping.
spring and summer and fall,
Yeah,
or your
winter's just bad. I don't do winter sports because of legs and knees and all that sort of stuff. So I just plan for the spring. Yeah.
Do you like? Is this a period where you do a bunch of planning for your next trips and stuff?
Yeah.
You
We
guys
plan
have
for.
gone. You know, you and Monica have done a ton of traveling, and I always see you on these pheasant.
Yeah,
hunts.
we're kind of planners.
I never get invited.
Well, I'm kind of a
but whatever.
planner. I drag Monica into the planning, and she picks up on it pretty quick and does all the plans once I figure out an idea, usually. But yeah, we plan for the summer and fall and camping and whatever, getting outside.
So, how did you get into Ottavio's?
What
was the?
Oh boy! Like
Go into
how,
a little bit about the backstory and history of,
Okay, so I was living in Toronto. I played soccer on just a pickup soccer team, and I played soccer with Monica's brother, Alberto. And we were both good
interesting.
soccer players, and so we played in the front, and we became good friends because we played well together. He was a center midfield, and I was a winger, and we scored a lot of goals and played well. He worked for Revenue Canada at the time.
He did?
And we played for the Federales was the name of our team.
Oh, perfect.
I forgot he had an accounting background too, doesn't he? Yeah.
So I met Alberto's family over the years that I knew him by coming out to visit because they're Italian, so they're going to come and visit, take the son grocery shopping to Fortino's, buy him some meat for the freezer or whatever. And so I met, her mom, her dad, and Monica, not all together, but over the years coming to visit. And so I was about to leave my career in urban planning. I worked for a real estate development consulting company in Tirana, and threw all that away. I was growing my hair, getting earrings, riding a motorcycle, and slipping out of the office world into what I know is now the West Coast world. And
so you're West Coast before you made it to
yeah,
the West
exactly.
Coast.
I wasn't even here, and I was doing it and moved in. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the place for me for sure. So I left all that, came out here. Monica and I were together at that point, and I worked at the bakery for 1 year. Making cakes and grilling
that's how you
sandwiches. I
landed?
did
Italian
bakery.
bakery.
Yeah. In 96, I guess.
Wow. What a transition.
And her parents owned cafe deli or a bakery deli in Italy?
In Italy, they had a number of them. Yeah,
Oh,
her
okay.
grandfather actually, he was a master pastry chef, and he had a couple of bakeries, like really high end, great bakeries with cafe bars in them. You know, where you get your
Yeah,
own
like
drink and you're
cool.
like the cool ones. You know, they do weddings down in the room below
Yeah.
in Torino, and they're still there. There's one on Pasticceria Piana is their last name, and it's still going in
Wow.
Torino. Yeah,
That was still owned by the family?
it's not. No,
It's not,
no,
yeah,
It's
but
I
it-
don't
but
know
it's
how
still
many
going.
generations away
Yeah.
from that, but yeah. So that's
is
where the
that
baking
where-
heritage comes from.
Okay, so that's where Monica's dad would have been trained?
He was the delivery guy. He wasn't trained as a baker. He was
Oh,
a
wow.
pharmacist. So
Oh, I think
he
I
was
knew
a
that, yeah.
pharmacist. Knew nothing about baking. They moved from Italy in '78 with Monica's uncle and aunt. So her uncle.
Now, was he a baker?
He was a
'Cause
baker.
yeah,
he
that's
was a
what I thought.
pastry
Yeah.
chef.
Yeah.
So they came here. Michele, Monica's dad, couldn't get licensing for pharmacist, obviously. So he just started working in the bakery. He couldn't get good bread, so he just learned how to make bread from a family friend here and started making bread. And that was it. Nobody made croissants here, so they started making croissants. They made cakes and pastries that no one had heard of or was doing for sure.
Well, you think about that period of time, because I remember I lived behind on Fifth Street, behind like Joe Zambri and I
Right,
bought a
yeah,
house.
yeah.
Our first house was right on
Right,
Fifth Street.
yeah.
And we would walk down to the bakery and we became friends. And then when we opened Zambri's, obviously that connection and
Yeah.
the Italian side of it, but it's an institution.
Institution.
Or has been for,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been around for
78. Since
Yeah,
78.
78. So,
Yeah.
man.
A billion
That's
years.
like
Monica's brother still
45
owns
years.
it. Yeah, and I worked there for a year, and then we just trying to decide what we want to do with our lives, Monica and I. And she worked at Monroe. She had
So when
language
you-
degrees,
okay,
and
We can talk about this.
Yeah.
So you and Monica were dating while you were in Toronto, or did you start dating? when
oh,
you
we're
were
going
at-
right into it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
We
deep
need to
dive.
listen, man.
Okay.
Trump's in office. We
So
need the
I
dirt.
was married at the time. I was previously married in Toronto.
Yeah, I knew that.
See,
too.
you knew there was
It's all
something. You knew there was
coming
something in there. You knew there was something juicy
Exactly.
in there.
Oh, this is all
Exactly.
new dirt for me.
Yeah.
And we were split up. We weren't together. And Monica came to visit, and really enjoyed spending time with her. In fact, I had to babysit her one time. That's where we really got to know each other. Alberto was going out for dinner with his mom and his new girlfriend. He's like, "Can you babysit my sister for me while I go out for dinner?"
And she was 10 at the time.
She was 4 years younger than me, 3 or 4 years
Okay,
younger than
okay.
me. So wasn't really babysitting, but taking care of her. So that's how we really got to talking and get to know each other. And I think she probably made a couple more visits out to Toronto. We don't really know. We don't exactly know the timeline when we actually
started dating.
started dating until I moved out here, and then we moved in immediately, like the first day.
Oh, really?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And did
So
you
it-
know from that day on? Did you just know it was the right thing? Like,
So this is kind of cool. We did this. This is back in the day of writing letters, and I took time off between Toronto and here because I needed to clear my head and whatever. So I went to a cabin that our family owned. That was a log cabin from 1860 in the middle of nowhere with no access to anything. In Ontario, yeah, on a river. So I was growing stuff and fishing and hunting and all that stuff just by myself.
How long were you there for?
4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And just getting used to black windows behind me and not locking the door and
Yeah.
not sleeping with a gun and all that sort of stuff because I was out in the middle of
Yeah,
nowhere. Anyway, so we wrote letters together. Before we were actually physically together, we wrote letters about what we were interested in and things that how we felt about issues in the world or whatever. And I'd walk out to my mailbox like a mile down the road, put it in, put the little
It's almost like
thing
you're a
up,
witness
flag up.
protection
put the flag
program.
up, see if there's any
Make sure there
letters
weren't
there.
any kids in pickup trucks with baseball bats and knock it off the house.
Exactly. So that's how we got to know each other. So when I came out here, we hadn't said anything really definitively in those
Yeah.
letters about how we felt each other, but about each other. But we had talked about all the issues that you would talk about
Yeah, if
in a
you were-
dating scenario.
Yeah.
So when we got physically in the same space, and we were like, "Oh, were you thinking what I was thinking, and you believe what I believe, and we're into that?" Boom.
That was like day one.
yeah, like there was no
Wow.
dating. It was
Amazing.
day one in.
I'm moving in.
Yeah.
Here's my
Wow.
bags. I'll stay with you.
Classic. Exactly.
Oh,
That's
that's
exactly
awesome.
what happened. Yeah.
And that was like late 1990s.
That was 97, 96
Yeah.
maybe.
And then you opened up Ottavio 97.
97, yeah. Maybe
So-
it was 95. I moved out here, winter of 95.
Well, you guys really moved fast.
Yeah, we got married in that time as well, just before
Had
we...
4
we had to get married
kids
before
and-
we opened the business. Let's get going. Let's get this out of the way because we're going to work pretty hard once we open this place up. So.
Yeah, that was a good anticipation, knowing how
Yeah.
hard.
Oh
it's
dear
gonna
Lord,
be.
yeah.
And
You
what
know
was
it's all
the
about.
driving force behind opening up Ottavio? Was it a dream? Was it just a natural extension of what the other side of the family was doing with the Italian bakery?
It was a combination, I think. Like when I was in Toronto, I worked right beside the St. Lawrence Market, so I really was into food, and I'd go there and just find what was on sale, bring it home, figure out how to cook it. I was kind of the entertainer and host for a lot of our friends or my friends. Monica's obviously got the baking and the background. I mean, she worked mostly in the front. Wasn't doing a lot of hands-on in the back, but she worked there since she was like 12 or something, right?
Learning the business from the ground up.
So we wanted to do something food-related, but not the bakery, not a bakery. We turned into having a bakery eventually, but that was not the goal.
How was that transition with the that? So you go to Monica's parents and say, we're gonna go do this delicatessen, and was there like?
Well, it happened.
What are you doing?
There was a landlord in Oak Bay that had a space, and he came to the Italian bakery to see if they were interested in going there. And they didn't have Alberto and his dad didn't have the
vision,
time and energy or whatever to do it. So it kind of trickled down to us, and we were like, okay, let's see what we can do with this. And we had made a plan to do something food related, but more cafe and deli and not so much baking and pastry and that sort of thing. More savory related, I think, was our interests anyways. And we got that little space that was a hairdresser and peeled the lights off the wall because they were just stuck with hairspray onto the wall. Like you took all the screws out and everything was still just hanging there. Like nothing came off. Yeah. Took the trays. No, I'm not kidding. Everything was, didn't need no fasteners. Everything was just hairspray to the wall.
Oh, man.
Hairspray to the wall.
The Village Flair, it was called. And
the Village Flair.
Village Flair, yeah. Right beside Rogers Chocolates, where the pub is now, right?
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis now is our old shop.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Oh my God. Did you build the space that Ottavio occupies now? Or
No, it was an old house, a duplex.
that wasn't okay.
Yeah. So we helped renovate that.
I remember when you were moving there.
Yeah.
That's how long ago we go back.
Yeah. I've got a picture. We've got a picture of Joe having a tour in there when it was half built.
Yeah.
And Isabella was 1 or something.
It's crazy how long we've known each other.
Yeah.
That's
right.
nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I may be jumping a little bit ahead, but I think in the spirit of the dirt, getting dirt, the owner, so when that opportunity came up, didn't the owner of the gallery, what's the guy's name?
Gunter.
Was he the original? Is he the guy that ended up with the gallery after?
No, he was the good guy. He built it with Anthony Sam, his business partner.
Yeah.
They had the little gallery at the Five Corners there, Fort and Foul Bay and all that.
Yeah.
And they had that tiny little gallery there, and they were customers of ours at our little shop.
And it was the Winchester
Winchester Gallery? Yeah. They were customers at our little shop, and they had bought the 2 houses and the lot up north of there on the hill, and it was residential, and they wanted to convert it to commercial for their gallery and something else. And so they offered us that space, and we were just getting killed in the little space. When you have a little space.
Yeah, you guys were jammed.
You know about having a little space and just getting beat up, and it's great, but you're just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
So we took the opportunity to move up there, and it was it was huge. It
wasn't like an easy decision, because I remember you contemplating and thinking about it and going, what kind of investment is this, and expansion and more employees and that sort of period where you're looking at your business growth. Yeah. And then the fear, but then just going for it.
The decision was the limitation in that space. Like at that point, there were a bunch of little food stores, specialty food stores. I mean, not doing what we were doing, but there were a bunch of little ones, and we were one of the little ones. And we're like, we can't do anything more with this space. Like in terms of business, we are capped. You can't put another person in here. You can't have another staff member. You can't carry another kind of cheese. Like this is it forever. And so we took the risk to double up, and you remember our little place. It was so crazy. Like if you wanted coffee, you had to wait behind the cheese people and the mortadella slicing people, just like in line going, "Oh my god,
what is going on here?"
So that's why we built it with two sides, right? The cafe side. So if you're just going for coffee, you go stand in line up and sit at a table and whatever. If you want cheese and meats, you don't have to wait for coffee guy to get his coffee. So
now, when you moved there, so I skipped over the dirt, but we'll get back to the dirt.
oh man,
When you moved there, did it instantly just fill?
Yes.
Or was there a period?
It filled.
It filled. Like so, the demand
it's
was
like doubled
there.
up, tripled up. It was crazy. We hired like one more person to open this new space.
And you're like,
as soon as we opened,
it's like,
we need another 15. It was crazy.
Wow.
And we were making our own gelato, and we didn't have, we built it out, but we didn't build walk-in freezers and fridges, and so we were just running out of trunk freezers and hadn't developed the basement. And so if you go in the place now, it's just a warren of 5.5 foot ceiling, storage space, offices, whatever.
It's like the basement too.
It's a real grotto down there. And we jackhammered out rock to put walk-ins in and stuff. Like it was brutal.
You're way under not capitalized, but way under your investment in that capital equipment and stuff was under what you needed.
Right. We just didn't think it was going to be 100 or 200% more the first day. Like it was obviously people couldn't get in that little place, so they had to, once you made the big place where they could breathe and they wouldn't have to wait in line behind everybody else, it went off. So we had a couple of years of just building and adding and moving equipment around because it had to be different, and it was just a gong show.
How did you handle
that's okay,
Sam, how did you handle the investment side of it? Like, were you capitalized well enough to do it, or you were? So you're like, okay, we got it.
It was we did everything, right? Monica did all the books. I did the deliveries. We built the space physically ourselves. Like we did the tiling, we did the counters, we painted stuff. We were really workers, in terms of putting our time in. So we didn't like to pay people to do a whole lot. so I mean, we obviously had refrigeration guys, but like your place, like Pete, and your people are fixing stuff, because if you can do that, you're saving yourself a ton of money. Mr. Roper Pete.
Yeah, Mr. Roper Pete. I'm like, the other day I was doing something
more every year.
Oh, should we be having him do this? Or,
I mean, he's not coming in with his house coat yet, but he will. Give him time. He'll be wearing a terry cloth robe and slippers before you know it.
Totally.
When that happens, we need pictures.
There'll be there. Yeah.
So we had saved enough money to do it, and we did it for, we built our first shop for nothing. We built our second shop for nothing in today's terms. Like, I mean, nothing. Like, crazy.
Yeah, I guess that's it's time or money, right?
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, because I always knew you're always working, you're always on it, you're always doing something, but you're also curating an amazing cheese selection, and like that takes work too.
That was my next question.
Oh, shit.
Like,
Okay,
I've been trying to bust this question in forever. when let me take over here.
You take over, please.
So, Andrew, nice to see you.
Nice to you.
I've been trying to go for a beer with this guy for a decade.
I know, and here we are having swill. When you go from a small place to a big space with so much more shelving to fill, how do you curate the stuff? Is that you? Is it Monica? Is it both of you?
It was both of us. We went to food shows, and we were at this really interesting time where specialty food was really growing. People were traveling more. There were, celebrity cookbooks out. There were TV shows. So that specialty food thing that everybody knows now, it's in all the grocery stores, that started in like the mid 90s.
Yeah.
So
You're right at the front wave.
rode it / drove that, right?
Yeah.
So we, in our little way, were bringing things in that people hadn't heard of before.
Yeah.
And so when we were in Europe or when we were in Italy, we'd go to food shows or make special trips to go there and learn things, and then come back to Canada and try to find an importer that would bring things like that in for us. Like Serrano ham was one of the things that I remember as being, one of the early products that we had. This was in the second place by that point, but we just made friends with people that were doing cool things. And so when Serrano came to Canada the first time, we got it in this weird little shop in, on an island in Western Canada. So we worked hard to get unique special things. One, because we loved the taste of them, and we thought we had people around our community. You guys, Sean Brennan would come in, and we'd tell the story so many times. We'd buy this really expensive kind of cheese, or this really weird kind of cheese that had 6 little pieces to it. And I knew we'd never had it before, but I knew if I bought 6, I'll eat one. We'll buy one. Yeah. Sean Brennan will buy one, and we'll have to sell 4. So, we were just at that time where we were introducing people to capers and caper berries and anchovies and those kind of things that were not didn't grow up with those. So not Spanish and Portuguese and Italian, but like Canadians were getting into being interested in cooking with those type of ingredients. So we were able to introduce them to that, or they would come back from trips and say, hey, we had this, can you get it? And we'd write their name down and try to get it. We just have this little scratch book, and we'd call them like 8 months later, hey, you're asking about that thing? Well, we got it in, or it's coming in 2 weeks or whatever. If you want to come and try it, no pressure. Whatever. But that's how we built our business, was that kind of attention to detail and personalized interest in following people's requests,
And I think that personalization is the key. Like I think that's what's gotten lost over. Some businesses still have it, obviously, but it gets lost in that sort of attention to detail, and that hospitality component of it is just knowing your customer, remembering what they want.
Remembering something from like months before, and people are losing their mind back when you called them and said, 8 months ago, you mentioned this thing. We have it. They'd be like, what?
Well, that builds such good loyalty too. Like, you can talk about, your service and hi, welcome to Ottavio's, all that stuff. But the stuff that builds legacy businesses is that kind of attention to detail.
Right.
Where you're doing that extra.
Yeah.
So what year did you move to the new store?
I don't know, 6 years later. So 2003, something like that. Yeah.
So
2003, 2002.
And then fast forward to the decision to sell.
2007.
Well, in the middle there was also a decision not to open any more places.
Yes.
Right? Because there's that temptation.
Right.
Why don't you open a place in Broadmead? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?
Totally. Did you kick tires on that?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time,
All the time, but we just didn't, because we felt that we couldn't
keep that
have that same attention in another place, because I'm not that great a manager. I'm more of a worker than I am a disseminator of information, and hopefully it goes on forever and everything works well. It's so
and the systems and the SOPs you need and all that.
A bit of a
stuff.
micromanager, which is not great. Works on one place, but doesn't work good. Doesn't work good in 5 places. So we rejected that, and I think that was the right move for us, anyways, because our business.
And you were making enough money, and you had all the things you needed, and there's no. Sometimes you grow to protect your business a little bit. Sometimes,
right?
Like if you're trying to find a new market, trying to find new customers.
Well, that's where we moved from the little place to the big place, was just solidify our position and have enough space to do whatever. But we didn't do that next step and do more places. And that was a conscious decision, not to, but to keep looking at it, but just didn't think we could handle it, both relationship-wise, business-wise, spreading yourself too thin. Yeah. Because we were going hard all the time. And that's why it was great from the beginning. Like, we made money. From day one.
Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
Saved it and
well, that's the other thing.
Did our own stuff.
Yeah, that's smart. Saving your money.
And you're always really good at paying down your mortgage and just get like.
We destroyed it.
Yeah, just
5 years.
Yeah, I remember, and I was just so jealous.
Didn't do anything. Just paid the mortgage down. Just go. And mortgages back then were not.
No, small, but still having that as a priority, right? So then you're there, 2003, you move into the new store.
Yeah.
When did you start looking at exiting? Like when?
2004. No.
2001?
No, but for sure it was an 8-year process. I mean, you guys know from entrepreneurship, this place is great. It's so easy. Everybody's happy. Our place is doing well. There's money, and then something happens. You lose a good manager. Equipment's blowing up all the time, whatever. And you're like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm selling it immediately, but this is not the time. And then that just goes on forever in our experience. It just goes on forever, where you're feeling good, you're feeling not so good. You're good. So every time we were at one of those pits, we'd be like, okay, we got to sell this thing. So we'd get, some ideas together and make a sell sheet and do up some photos and, try to do it on the sly, which never really worked. I mean, it worked well that no one knew we were kind of actively looking. But it was not great for attracting purchasers because no one knew, right? So it wasn't a listed thing. So we were not ready to go because of finance. We're just like at those low points, just maxed and just like stressed in family, relationship and children and being a good father and mother. And, it just got to be a lot. But eventually, after 8 years and a couple of tries at it.
Attempts.
Attempts, yeah. Weak
What was
attempts
that?
or strong
What was
attempts.
that experience like?
Difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, very difficult. Just, going through your business with a fine-tooth comb, and
Having to
you've
defend.
got it locked up. You've dotted, Monica's crossed every
Oh,
T
yeah,
and
yeah,
dotted
yeah.
every I, and
Yeah.
there's nothing out of place,
Yeah.
and to have, to still just grind through that.
Yeah.
Monica just about had a coronary, man, and I did too, because she was like just so mad.
Yeah.
so
And to have
angry.
other people coming through your
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well,
too,
and make
I mean,
statements
that's-
that are really negotiation tactics
Right.
rather than substantive.
Exactly.
Like it's not
Exactly.
like Monica. Like I know this 'cause
Yeah.
we used to buy gelato and other stuff, and Monica just be like
Oh yeah.
on us, and it
Oh,
was like
the
a minute
best.
late.
Yeah.
Monica was on the phone. I can see Monica. Are we calling for a dinner? Or are you calling to collect? It's kind of 90% collection and 10% dinner invite. It's under the dinner invite and the collection would happen at the same time.
Same
Okay, you
with
guys
the
gonna
bank.
come for dinner this weekend? Yes. Okay,
Well,
send us a check.
if you pay us, yeah.
Yeah.
No dinner if no
Well,
check.
one of the beauties of our business too is we had very little business that wasn't cash at
Yes.
the counter.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we had no collection.
Yeah,
you guys,
Yeah.
two other
And
people.
even then, it was probably like, no,
Sean
we
and
don't want to
Mark
do that.
and nobody, right? So
Yeah.
we just didn't have to. We were very lucky we didn't have to worry about, because that's got to
A
take a
huge
ton of energy, right?
Yeah.
And just killer of time and money.
Yeah.
So that was beauty, just across the counter. Like somebody gets something, they pay you for
Yeah.
it immediately. That's pretty cool.
I've kind of gone in that direction now. Forever in my wholesaling, I would let people go a month without paying.
Yeah.
And now I've got everyone's card on file.
Mm-hmm.
It's paid before it even leaves my space.
And it's worth the 2.5% or whatever you pay in that too. It is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the amount of
The stress and grief of doing that, and
Oh.
embarrassment, is just gross.
well, then
right?
you're talking to
Collecting
your
money.
friends, right?
Yeah.
And you know that they're in the same position you're in. Like none of us, except for you, have the business that spits off cash like it's one of our style, right? Like we're all looking at Andrew
Oh,
going,
good.
"Ah, man, he's got the best life ever.
Serrano ham and gelato, that's all it takes.
Yeah, mortgage paid off. He sold his business.
This is a house at Hambot.
Right? Yeah.
So when you're getting insulted by these inquiries,
Yeah.
and I kind of know,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right? You get insulted by these inquiries
Yeah.
and these, and I've gone through this process myself. I've sold an import business, and like I know
Yeah.
the
It
pain,
can be
especially
brutal. Yeah.
when you're heart and soul's in it.
Yeah.
Right. And you know that everything is legit.
Right.
And then you're having to justify. But you've also done everything by hand. Like I remember Monica would have these ledgers, and I'm just like,
Our
wow.
accountant gave her like some sort of gold trophy when he
Yeah.
retired. He's like, I can't believe you did this with the pencil and a book.
forever.
Forever.
Like-
forever. At the very end, last 3 years, she didn't use an accounting program, but he got her on a spreadsheet.
Yeah. I remember that.
Excel spreadsheet.
I remember I'd show up either to pay or pick something up or do something, and then Monica would just bring out this ledger, like going back to like 1940.
Yeah.
Right? Like just hell handwritten. And I'm just
Never a
like,
mistake.
It is so awesome because it's like,
Well, it doesn't.
even at that time, it
Yeah.
was like so old school.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, she learned it all from her dad because he did it that way. He was meticulous. She's meticulous. And, putting something on a piece of paper and a spreadsheet and printing it off, it looks so good.
Yeah.
But it's still wrong most of the time. Like
Well,
it's
well,
not,
then
it
you
just
kind
looks
of inflate it because it's like
it's just-
easy to change
oh,
the
just,
numbers. Well, just do it this way.
multiply. Oh,
Yeah.
look at the title in there, the total in there. Doesn't look great.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to make a mistake when you're handwriting something because there's a lot more thought process, and your brain
Well,
is
you're in
more
it.
connected to your hand
Yeah.
than is to a keyboard.
Yeah.
Right?
There's something to
Yeah.
be said about that touching, and I think this is a very important lesson for entrepreneurs and business people getting into business or in business. Is I went probably 2 years, maybe the last 2 years, I've let the team kind of manage stuff, and I used to go meticulously through our P&Ls, and like I do it on a spreadsheet, but I would spend hours and hours and hours running scenarios. Well, if we cut this over here, if we do this, if we raise this over there, what does that look like? And then and every time the P&L would come up, I would know when we first started Zambries and Big Wheel, in fact, I would know based on sales what our profit was going to be. Like I didn't need, what was our sales? Well, we did 100K. Well, I knew that we were going to make 8. I just knew.
Yeah.
And then I'd go through the whole thing and we're going to make 8. And we would make 8. Now, as we've grown, I've let that go and I just started back doing it again. And there's a feeling of just being connected to your business.
Right.
Right now it's scary because I've done it and now I'm like, shoot.
What have I done?
No, well, like now I can't unsee what I see.
Right.
Like, and then I'm looking in the future. I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable. Like somehow but the fact that Monica did it in such detail, you never had that ever. You always knew exactly where you were at the moment.
Right.
And I think that is so important. It's hard to do as you grow your business, but remembering those fundamentals, like trying to cheat it so that you can actually have that sort of same feeling. So now I'm never going to let go of that again until, we exit.
Yeah.
Right. So then because I know it happened a couple times. So you had an offer and then it fell apart. So the decision, what was the time from the time that you thought you had sold it till the time that you actually sold it? Was it like 2 years or 3 years?
You mean with the final purchaser?
Yeah, with the final purchaser.
Oh, no, it wasn't that long.
It had to be.
It was probably 8 months.
Really?
Yeah.
So quick? Oh, I felt like.
Oh,
forever.
we did have a failed offer with the same purchaser too.
Yes, that's what I was. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So
there was
4
a gap.
years, maybe. 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Did you have other people looking at it as well in that time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But nothing
that
really,
took legs.
nothing we really followed up on or that made sense to us or made sense to them. But yeah, there was a revisit. You're right.
What made you go back? Because of I imagine
this is kind of a good story. So
Nice
the original purchaser or the first time around with this group. We got offended as you usually do when you're selling your business.
Of course.
You always get offended. Right? So we were offended, and we put a lot of effort and time and money into it, getting all our stuff together and accounting and this and that, whatever. And then they walked out on it after 4-6 months of gathering stuff and doing work and
based on their requests,
right?
Give me this,
right,
give me that.
Right.
Jumping through all these hoops.
So they declined at that point, and I was super pissed because I put so much work into it. So I just ghosted these guys, and I didn't answer their last email, and I just.
As soon as you saw it,
I might have sent something snide back.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was perhaps it didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because I'm not that kind of guy. I mean, I was mad, but it didn't sit well with me, and I'm a big apologizer. Like when I have people at work, people need to know 3 words: please, thank you, and I'm sorry. There's nothing. I used to screw up all the time because I'd jump to some conclusion or think I knew why something wrong. I'm like, oh, I didn't, because the staff member was doing the right thing, and so I'm apologizing quite a bit. Kalen, I'm sure you've apologized a few times.
Oh yes.
So it just didn't sit well with me. So I called the guy like 3 years later and said, hey, I'm just sorry about the way that ended, and I shouldn't have done it, and I didn't feel good about it, and maybe we can start again because we've got some different things in place that you were looking for. And then,
so was that based on their sort of like they're sending you an email saying, hey, like I don't think we're going to move forward because of this, this, and this, and then you're like,
exactly
the bird. This is the bird.
Double
the dirty bird. There we go. See?
Full circle.
Everything comes around. And
thanks for listening next week.
We have a new guest next week. The dirty bird. So you gave him the dirty bird. And then I imagine, because I know there was probably some tapping, knocking on the door during that period, or were you?
Nope.
It was just like when you stopped them, that was it.
Yeah.
What kinds of things would they be rejecting your business for? I mean, they obviously approached you because they were interested, but was it
it's all about
financial
sales
numbers?
And profit, right? Yeah, financially. Yeah, and I guess there's a bit of like we didn't have a strong management team, which is what purchasers are always looking for.
Because you're gonna
because we're in there. I'm in there.
Yeah.
Just messing around.
Yeah.
Being a micromanager and doing
my
thing.
Well, you make up for weak managers. Like you just do as an owner.
Right.
You're like, okay. And then sometimes you build a structure around weakness, which if you're out of it, all that falls apart.
It falls apart.
And it's pretty clear when you start looking at who's there. Oh, this can't really run the way it runs without the principal.
Yeah.
So if you're gone, what do I buy? Like, what is the guarantee that the sales will continue and the profit? And
right.
Where's the corporate memory?
Yeah.
It's sitting on Grant Street, like drinking lattes and
That's right.
beers.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, we had a financial track record, which was great, and then we needed to get the management kind of setup done a little bit better and
more kind of hands off for the owner.
Yeah.
Like you can build that legacy out where it's not primarily dependent. And I think that is a good lesson for people who are looking to sell their business, is making sure that they have people.
Everybody wants that, right? That's the number one thing I think is so it's not your name, it's not you.
Yeah.
It's your people, or there's a track record of people and processes and all that kind of thing.
So that can actually stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah.
I think that's something for because I don't cook. I'm just the business guy. I've always tried to build businesses like that where it's just like, okay, I'm never working in this business. Like I've never flipped a burger. I've never tossed pasta. I've never done any of that. But just made sure. And the weaknesses is, as far as business goes, is the Big Wheel was always built to be standalone with a good team.
Right.
And we're not there either. Like we're getting there now, but after 13 years, Big Wheel or Zambri's was always dependent on Peter and Joe. So it was like, okay, like building all that team. We're kind of in that spot now where they're on the back burner, but I've always said, like, you got to get the businesses to work for yourself as soon as possible. Not only for your own peace of mind, but it gives you more opportunity to look for opportunities, to spend time,
working on the business.
On the business, not in the business.
Right.
And when you talk about being, an employee mentality, that ownership mentality or the management mentality is different. And if you don't understand what the difference is between being an employee or being a manager or even being an owner, then you fall into the trap where you're doing all the work. You're sweeping your own warehouse. Meanwhile, you're kind of not seeing. And, so I think those lessons, it's amazing like how many years people are in business and still the idea of it and actually execution of it is difficult.
I swept my warehouse the other day.
Yeah. I'm a warehouse sweeper for sure.
For the third time last week.
For sure.
Yeah. It's good to clean your room sometimes. Yeah. Right. But when you have to clean your room, when you're the person that is designated to clean the room, then I think you're in your business too much. And the idea that you want to sell it, you have to start working on how to sell it. And part of that is stepping back and make sure you have good people, making sure your margins are there to afford it too. Like a lot of times it's a necessity.
Yeah.
Your business volumes aren't there in order to hire somebody to do the work.
Yeah.
Right. But then you've really gotten a job or bought yourself a job, which is fine too. But if your expectation is to sell, you can't be sweeping the warehouse.
Yeah, you got to kind of set that up from day one, really.
We got to start thinking
that work through it anyways.
Yeah. Well, and you did. You were doing it for a long time before you made that realization, and you also had to go through the punishment of, this is what selling this business looks like. Right. You have to swallow your pride, and then even though I think that process is brutal, it's punishing. It's like anything. Like even like legal stuff. I went through a court battle years ago when I had to sue the hospital for nearly killing me. And it was painful. And the stuff they said and all that whole process, at the end of it, I was like, that was necessary because you need to be able to determine what it's worth, right? You can't just say, you need to pay me this because of this, right? It's like, well, no. The reality is, like, you have to do the work. You've got to do the rehab. What are you leaving with? And what are you leaving them with? And in the business side of it, of purchasing a business, what business, like, you don't want to be selling a business that's, a year down the road is just going to fall apart. Like, nobody would buy. And so the diligence that they did, as frustrating as it is probably necessary, like that process. Yeah. And then you also accepting and eating a bit of your own feelings about it too.
Yeah. And to talk about numbers a little bit, like selling our business was not the bonanza that made it, we can live with it. It was not. It was just a little piece that made it all good. So as we were going along, we saved money, we bought a property, things like that.
Made other investments.
Right. That was huge because then at the end, there's really,
Well, you're basically buying 3 to 5 years of your future income.
Yeah.
Or you're selling.
Exactly.
So you have a 5-year run. So then you have to pivot and put the money somewhere where you're going to either generate more income, whether it be passive or create a new business or go work and use that as a nest egg kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, my argument is starting earlier, as early as you can.
Yes.
To buy
Build
things,
out.
put things away,
Yeah.
whatever. Because that last bit, when you sell it in your whatever age, there's
Yeah.
not as much time and not as much money as you'd hope for in either end, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
just
So-
got to start as early as possible. To
And it's an unknown factor, so you don't want
unknown and
hinging
never as high as
everything
you
on
think
something unknown. Right?
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah. It's,
I mean, in food service, anyways.
well, I
sure
think
in-
it's even all business. Without, I'm going through something right now where at the end I'm like, oh, that's what's left, and
Right.
it gets dispersed and there's like equity here or whatever, but it's like, oh, I just did that for 20 years
Yeah.
for that, and you're kind of like, it's good, but you're kind of like, okay, I can't, I got to still work, I still got to focus, I
Yeah.
still got to do that kind of stuff. So the expectations need to be kind of in check. So when you went through the purchase the second time, you were better prepared,
Yeah.
right? So you knew what the questions were going to come. Was it easier the final time, or was there still stuff? that
No,
were
it was
just
harder
like-
because it was more detailed. Because
Yeah.
we were going right to the end, right? I don't think we even had a purchase agreement the first time. It was a letter of intent. Or
Oh yeah. So this time it was like,
it was a little more serious, yeah.
how long did it take?
I think it was like 8 or 9 months or something. It was supposed to be,
Jeez. Like
we
three?
do things really quick. It's going to be 6 months turnaround or 6 week turnaround.
Yeah.
So,
No.
no. No, not when you get the lawyers and the accountants and the, forensic accountants and
Well, yeah,
whatever involved.
they get paid by the month.
Yeah.
Well, they're having to go through like
Right.
50 books.
Ledgers, yeah.
Try inventory on like 250 kinds of cheese, right?
Oh,
Could you bring me all the Mazithra that you have? You have to weigh it all first of all, and then so you're running to this fridge and that fridge, and there's a couple more pieces down there, and then you're putting it on a scale and weighing like whatever
oh my.
kilo
Right
and a
down to
half
the
of
minutia,
Mazithra to
huh?
250 kinds of cheese, like because that's how that
That's-
forensic
yeah.
inventory's done, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and that's what they're
so
buying.
you've got this listed. Bring
Yeah.
me that. You're
Show
like,
it to
dear
me.
Lord, just digging around in the basement trying to find that last jar,
Sticking stuff in
last
the
jar
cheese
of
to make it weigh
olives.
more.
I'm sure it's there. Well, then I'm
Sticking
sure there's
rocks in
stuff
the
that you've
cheese.
written down. Well, maybe
Bad.
not with you guys, but stuff that's written down that all of a sudden is like, okay, that's not there.
Right, it's MIA got thrown out or who
Yeah.
knows what. No, but we did it ourselves. So
Yeah,
We knew it was there.
So, what year did you finally exit?
2017, I think.
2017. Wow. So that's
Yeah. Yeah.
praise be.
And
Yeah.
would you consider that a retirement?
Well, that's interesting.
I think so. I mean, from doing something that is you're bound to it all the time, and
Waking
you've
up.
got 25 people reliant on you and that sort of thing. Now it's just our little family reliant on stuff. We've got buildings to take care of, and rental and this and that, and tenants and that kind of thing, and projects. And I'm Mr. Fix It around home, and always have been, and gardening and whatever. So yeah, retirement. I'm busy
Yeah.
because you know me. I'm
I
busy.
can't even get you down for a beer.
I'm busy. But yeah, that was retirement. I think. I hate to say that.
No.
It's not it seems like such a weird word, but anyways, we're doing
Well,
other
you
things. and-
haven't slowed down in your retirement.
No.
If anything, you
No.
were able
Just
to
doing
explore
other
more
things more,
things
yeah.
that you like.
Yeah, for sure.
So, when did the Winchester Galleries change hands?
I don't know
Dirty
a lot.
bird, man.
That is
This is
true.
the
I don't
Dirty
know a
Bird
lot
show.
about that story. I don't have a lot of intel for you, other than it was like we were gone. I think.
Oh, were you gone? So it was after 2017?
Yeah, we were gone. Yeah,
Interesting. It's so funny because
it might have been, or maybe it was right around the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah, and I don't know a lot about that story other than that guy moved in there and assumed Gunter's building, and I think they had a lot of they always had a lot of art in like the attic, like
Yeah.
literally just
Yeah.
stacked up like big Canadian, historical art.
Huge value.
Huge value. And so, but it was always on commission or on
consignment.
consignment.
Yeah.
So they didn't own it. Gunter didn't own it. This guy didn't own it, but that's I think how he ended up with sold all this stuff or had this millions of dollars worth of art. It wasn't that he purchased it.
Yeah, he basically
It's that it
stole
was it was on loan to him or on loan to Winchester Gallery, and the
Yeah.
new owner took over and just never
Sold
gave
it.
the stuff back, sold it,
Yeah.
stored it, whatever. That's
Wow.
I think what happened.
Now, did
Wow.
I guess you don't know, but was Gunter holding the bag on any of that, or was there like
He's
better
not a
take
hold the
back?
bag kind of guy, Gunter.
Yeah,
So
Gunter, like I imagine his
I don't think so. He's pretty shrewd.
like he's
Yeah.
is he like
Yeah.
European, like German or something.
He's
like,
German fellow,
so,
Gunter Heinrich,
yeah,
and now they
Germans don't hold
they
the
live
bag.
in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Oh,
Yes.
good.
Yeah. He's okay.
Because I know the good, you know, when you look
There's
at
no
good and bad,
extradition.
He was not.
it's
left
nice to
holding
know that the you know, not to. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other people that were victimized or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's nice.
I
to
don't know
that-
per se, but
Yeah.
I think you know, my understanding is it was property that the artists owned.
Yeah.
And just sat in these spaces, you know.
Yeah.
Like
All
not on the wall,
consignment.
just lined up and wrapped in paper and whatever. So that's because I was around that building a lot. We were catering and stuff for them, so I was
Yeah,
in
they
their
did a lot of
storage areas
projects
and
and-
whatever. So I saw all that stuff sitting there. Tempting as it was, I didn't take any, but someone did.
Somebody did.
Yeah, I mean, not to make light of it for sure.
No,
It was
of
brutal.
course.
Brutal,
Yeah.
brutal,
I was
brutal.
wondering where you got that group of 7.
Right.
No one's been allowed to go in his house ever since 2017.
But yeah, it was all laughing aside, that was a super bad situation for artists living in,
Oh,
not alive, and local people, and just
it's
people
horrible.
had a lot of value tied up there.
Well, and it's just funny because you know this stuff happens, and you've got an impression of what you're looking at, what you're walking by, but behind the scenes, you just
Yeah.
hear these stories, and you're just like, oh, whether it be
Yeah.
those investment guys that have screwed so many
Right.
people, and you know, then they're acting like they're the heroes, and then all of a sudden, the truth comes out, and you're just like, how did
Here we
not see
go
it?
again. Yeah.
Yeah, here we go again. And there's always like crumbs of trails that people just ignore or
Right.
I can't see or just build trust, or if you're a grifter. And that's why I think some people who get grifted feel really bad about themselves. Like, how did I miss it? But these people are professional grifters. You know, they are good at gaslighting. They're charismatic.
Right.
They do a lot of
They're
stuff.
sending you a fancy looking statement every month. Like,
Yeah,
how do you know
exactly.
whether
How-
it's, I mean,
exactly.
how hard is it to get a letterhead and make
Well, and
something?
you don't know. Like, how are you going to even attempt to do any forensic kind of stuff? Like,
Right.
without, acting like, somebody who's say they are doing good, and then all of a sudden you're coming in as, I need to audit you, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't really build trust. So you just kind of, oh, it's okay.
Right.
Meanwhile,
It's not okay.
it's not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And, people lose. Yeah.
Well, that's why us in our small community, all of us work with people that we know, and hopefully that's a wise way to go. I mean, lots of these grifters are working with people that they know and still take advantage of them.
Yeah. Well, and it's easy I do a lot of stuff in the sort of like the poker world and the gambling world.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's very good people and very bad people that
Right.
you run into, and there's grifting and there's stealing and theft, and I'm fairly good at spotting it. And I just know I've been burnt a little bit over the years, but very small. But I've been next to other people that have been burnt very big.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, so I can sniff it out right away. I just kind of stop and don't, anything that sounds too good.
Yeah, I
or,
was
it's
just going
always
to say
too
that.
good.
Too good to be true. It
It
is
always
too
is.
good.
Like
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Unless you're absolutely in control of it. And sometimes you get lucky. You're like, oh, wow, this is a really good deal. Oh,
Right.
Be happy. But if it involves anybody else,
Yeah.
it's too
It's too good.
just stay away.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot overcome, like, you just have to put the work in. Just like you and Monica doing every last little detail.
Yeah.
That's the work it takes to be able to get an exit and be able to set yourself up. There's no shortcuts, right? Sadly. I wish there were some shortcuts.
There's no one pill you can take, and
No.
you're all good.
Well, I
Oh,
did.
because I've been taking these pills for months.
Different ones all the time.
Yeah, different. I figure I'll find
What
the
do you
right
got?
one eventually.
Remember when I did that
One of our first podcasts.
microdosing? I was trying this microdose. You know how you do microdose mushrooms or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I was microdosing something. And I took too much of it by accident. It was all like dried on the needle and or not the needle, but the dropper. And I showed up to a bread and butter club
The
meeting.
needle's getting a little bit
Yeah,
serious.
Yeah, I know.
Just microdosing heroin. Just a little tiny
The
bit.
needle was crusty. I'm like, what?
But I still jammed it
It was a
in.
dropper. It was a dropper.
Okay,
It was-
all right.
Anyway, it's legal what I was doing,
Okay.
but it was just delivered to me in a way that I should have just washed the dropper,
Mm-hmm.
but it had a bunch of residue on it, and so it was like a macro. And then I'm going to the bread and butter club, and all of a sudden I'm seeing like lights and big flowers popping up, and I'm like, oh, I take it too much.
I haven't microdose. I just dose.
Yeah, I had to tell everybody at the meeting. I said, sorry guys, I did this, and I'm now.
I may be looking around quite a bit.
Like this.
And then we came here and
We
did
did
a
a
podcast
podcast.
anyway. And for our listeners, if you can find out what podcast is, I'll give you a free coffee at my shop.
Oh, I don't
But
like. I've wanted.
I
I
don't
haven't
know what
listened
one
to
it
it.
was anymore.
The macrodosing podcast.
Yeah, it was.
How long have you guys been doing this?
It's our fourth
Or
season?
fifth year? I
Wow.
guess.
Yeah.
We started kind of right after COVID. Like it would have been
Okay.
2021, 20. That would have been probably. It would have probably been 2020, like the fall of 2020, maybe. Like we had to wear masks and their social distancing.
Nothing else to do. You're like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
might as well start
let's try
like
this.
everyone else. Let's
Yeah.
start the podcast.
right.
Well, we wanted to talk about the issues in the hospitality industry, and the stuff that we talk about mostly surround around that. We do some kind of municipal politic kind of stuff, and we get into some bigger politics stuff depending on what's happening. But mostly, it's just around supporting small business.
Yep,
We've
great.
had some bankers on, accountants on, mental health people on, especially around COVID. Mental health was a huge thing, and still
Yeah.
is. Like we have a generation of people that have gone through something that they're still grappling with at the age where it wasn't a good age, like from
Right.
17 or 15 to missing your high school, late high school, all these pivotal moments in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, we're going to see those ramifications.
Well, I think we already
we are now, but-
yeah, and I think that's when we talked earlier about the book that I rave about, which is called The Fourth Turning, and how history repeats itself, and all these things have happened in the past, in the pandemic and the repercussions or the fallout after the pandemic, and all those things. Those events really mold the future for those people that have gone through it, and then sometimes it disrupts their growth or their anticipation of stuff, and then other times it actually makes them, or makes the generation that goes through those things
Right.
wiser, smarter, not wanting to, understanding the mistakes that were made and then trying to fix it. So we'll see what happens in the next kind of decade. So now, what have you been doing since 2017?
All my stuff, gardening,
Doing a little of this, a little of that.
chickening,
What
beekeeping.
I want to hear about beekeeping. That's what I
The
want to hear about.
beekeeping thing is like
Yeah.
super fascinating.
It
Yeah.
is a fascinating hobby. It's
So, and do you sell the honey?
yeah,
And it's with the-
Fernwood honey.
Fernwood honey.
Yeah, we sell it just to friends and family and a couple of restaurants. Stage and Cliffy at Full P buys it, and
Yeah.
Hobbin gets it down at the spa there for their
tea?
drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of tea going down there.
Yeah.
No, a lot of honey. Seriously,
Yeah, a lot of honey,
crazy. I don't-
really?
Yeah, a lot. But yeah, it's my second favorite hobby.
And
It's really
how did you get
incredible.
into it?
My Croatian friend, who's also my hunting partner, was a beekeeper, and I started pestering him and accompanying him on doing things. And now he's older and kind of tapping out of it, and I am off to the races. I'm doing it for 8 or 10 years or something, and it is it's an all-engrossing, incredible
Where are
hobby.
your bees kept? Like,
They're in our backyard and at Peter's backyard, which is on Elk Lake. And that's where they are in the summertime or in the early summer. And then we have a yard up in Shawnigan in the logging areas there where fireweed grows, where they've cut trees down and the first thing to come up is fireweed, and it grows like crazy there. And
So is
that's
that like a pollinator kind of thing?
it's a nectar source. The biggest
Okay.
nectar source we have on the island is like we don't have clover and canola and all those prairie crops that there's just thousands and thousands of acres. So we have blackberry, we've got trees, maple, whatever. That's where most of the nectar and pollen comes from, not from, people's flowers. It's important that people grow lavender and bee friendly plants, but they really go for the big things like big sources, which are trees usually. Like,
and in a sort of concentrated area, so they're able to.
yeah, they go 5 miles,
Wow.
long way.
So
Yeah.
how do you transport them? Like, how do you get
Pickup truck
really?
at night.
How do
Like,
you
are they
get those little
asleep?
tiny
Yeah.
seat belts on them?
They're not as. They're not good. It's a lot of seatbelts.
a lot of
Oh, my.
seatbelts.
Safety first. Safety
Well,
first.
these are endangered.
Everybody buckle up.
Gotta
Let's
keep 'em
go.
safe.
You ready, guys?
I don't hear a click back there.
You cannot go to the washroom. We're not there yet.
Click, 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 click. At nighttime, yeah.
Nighttime,
They
so
all
they're-
go in. They all go in at night, and you close up the entrance, and you strap them with ratchet straps and screw them shut, and get somebody to help you.
Are they freaking out
put
in
him?
there?
Nope. They're quite calm.
The whole box.
Really?
Yeah, they're just buzzing away, and you make sure they have lots of ventilation so they don't get too hot. That's a problem. That's why we take them at night. One, that they're all in there, and two, it's cooler.
Yeah.
And the nectar's all done in the city, so in the beginning of July, we pack them up in a truck at night and leave at 3 or 4 in the morning, and drive up there to our yard. We have a bee yard that has a bear fence and stuff around it. And
is this on government land or?
It's on forestry private land.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a permit and an agreement with them. We have to pay for every year and get our insurance, beekeeping insurance. It's a thing.
Wow.
Really?
And if you crash your truck with a bunch of bees in it, I guess you're supposed to be insured. But they don't.
Is that for like bee stings for the public?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Incredible.
So we drive them up to the mountain and take them out and put them all in their pallets in our yard there and open up the entrances. And when the daylight comes, they go out and figure out a whole new area in a matter of a day. And then, and fireweed's just starting then. So they go have 6 months of fireweed, salal, and thistle just going for it.
Wow.
So do you have to, I got a couple questions. What happens?
I got a lot of answers.
The bee, do you leave any bees behind?
We leave one in each yard for BTV, right? We have 2 channels. We have chicken TV and BTV in our backyard.
Is that for your own personal
watching?
Exactly. Because I got the chicken TV.
Yeah, you got
can
chickens.
just sit and watch chickens all day long.
Nice cocktail and a lawn chair and chickens and bees. You're good for the afternoon.
Especially if you take the micro out of your dosing, right?
Yeah,
Sandwich?
oh my goodness. I'm like, okay.
The flowers
I'm
are growing.
coming over.
Everything's happening. So we leave one in each yard, one in Peter's because the chestnuts come out later. So he wants all the chestnuts pollinated. So we leave one in his property and one in ours for BTV.
Does that freak them out? Because where's the mother bee? Is there a mother bee in each one?
Oh man, this is such a
queen
huge
bee?
topic. Yeah, it's a superorganism, right? They're not. It's like the queen doesn't make the decisions and doesn't tell everybody what to do. It's a group activity. They all figure out.
They all just know?
No, they figure it out. They communicate, right? So when we take them up to the bee yard and we let them out, there's scout bees that will go out first. And when they find a nectar source, they'll come back to the hive and they do what's called the waggle dance or the bee dance. It's a figure-8 dance, and they do a dance that tells direction, distance, and quality of the nectar. So everybody else doesn't have to search around. They can just go in this direction.
So they send out little commandos out there to survey.
They come back in.
Is there
they
a
do a
hierarchy
dance.
in the bee community?
No.
They're all just the same. They just know that on my role,
They work through every job in their life period. So they start out as a housekeeper.
So the queen is kind of a misnomer then.
Right. Everybody takes care of her just because her responsibility is to lay eggs, but she's responding to what the hive says. So they'll give indications that there's lots of pollen right now, which is the food for larvae for babies. So she'll start laying more eggs when spring comes because they tell her it's time now.
So is she just sitting there the whole time? Does she ever go out?
She never goes out.
Yeah,
she does one mating flight and she mates with 12 drones. They all die, and she flies back. It's a bad gig. Well, they're lazy. They don't. The drones. They're like teenage boys in the basement playing video games, eating chips. They don't collect nectar. They don't make honey. They don't sting. They don't protect the hive. All they do is sit around and eat honey until it's time to mate.
Are there quite a few of them proportionally?
There are in the spring. So the queen can decide whether she wants to lay a fertilized egg, which will become a female, a worker bee. All the bees that we see are females, pretty much. All the nectar gatherers and pollen gatherers are all females. The drones don't do anything, literally. But she'll lay lots of drone eggs in the spring because she knows that the world of bees needs fertilization. So she'll lay lots of drones. So she mates once. She does this mating flight, gets all the sperm for her life in her, flies back towards the hive. Yeah.
Wow.
She goes back to the hive. She drops her abdomen as she's entering the hive and ejects sperm that doesn't swim up. So it's essentially genetic selection of bee sperm. It ejects that before she goes in. Then she goes in and she has all the sperm for life. She produces eggs, and then she passes eggs through the sperm to have a fertilized egg, which will be a female bee, a worker bee, or she just lays an egg without sperm, and that will be a drone or a male.
Wow, and she knows the proportionate amount?
They'll discuss it. It's a superorganism.
Wow.
It's incredible stuff, man.
Can she lay
fascinating
drones that can then go and impregnate other
Yes. Yeah.
queens from
yeah.
other
Because she
hives?
doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah.
She only needs sperm once, so she's laying it for the greater good of beeness, right?
And
Not
so
for her at all. Has nothing to do with her.
Is she getting that information from the bees that are going out and about and they're kind of sensing what's going on? How many other
It's
bees
this
there
time
are?
of year. I don't know how they
Or-
decide how many, but she knows that they need to lay drones.
42,000 drones.
Exactly.
So will they create other hives?
When they get too populous, like when
Yeah.
they overpopulate the hive, like when they're too successful, you hear about swarming, right? The
Yeah.
bees swarmed. They swarm because they're happy, because they've outgrown their hive and the beekeeper hasn't kept up with providing them with enough space.
More layers.
Or splitting it
Yeah.
and then making 2 hives from one, right? So it's like
So do you need 2 queen bees for each? So you have
you
to
need one
find a queen?
Yeah. They will make a queen. You can buy a queen from someone if you want it to happen quickly and install a queen in a little cage.
But if you move the hive, they'll just all of a sudden have a queen will show up.
So queens are made by
This
the.
is so fascinating,
it's
man.
so she'll take an egg, or if she'll lay eggs. If you take the queen away, all the bee community, that hive will know that there's no queen present because their pheromones not there. After 24 hours for sure they'll know.
Yeah.
So they'll find eggs that she just laid, and they feed it the most nutrient rich food that they can get. It's called jelly or royal jelly. You've heard of it probably. So they feed them just 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 of them. They choose those and they build a bigger cell and they feed them royal jelly, and those will become queens. And then there's one. So it's all done by diet. It's not genetics. It's by diet. By feeding them the best food that you can get. So it makes this giant bee. The first one that comes out kills all the other queens. Usually, will eat through the cell and kill the other queens
Before they're born?
Yeah.
Huh.
Or sometimes they'll swarm in different things. But so when the queen,
So they are what they eat.
Yeah, they are what they eat. They can.
Well, what a
make
good lesson
queens.
for human beings too.
Yeah.
Like
They make it by diet.
Always be the first queen hatched.
don't kill the other queens.
Kill the other queen.
Oh, sorry, no. I mean, eat good food.
Eat good food, yeah.
Eat good food.
Yeah,
Exactly.
eat good food. You are what you eat.
Yeah.
If there's a person in Victoria who wanted to get more involved in bees and they didn't know anything, what's a good resource to get?
You go to the bee club. What's it called? The CRBA, Capital Region Beekeepers Association.
Okay.
And
Are you part of that association?
yeah. And they have meetings every month. And
Do you go to the meetings every month?
no. But I go when I'm not busy or there's something I want to know.
You're a
I want to
supporter.
talk to some people and get some
Find out
answers because it's a bunch of, crazy bee people. They're
Would
not,
you say you're an expert in beekeeping?
no one says that really.
No one,
because
'cause
no
it's
one, there's no one like,
No one knows all the information.
no one knows. You get 5 people together that have been doing it for years, and
And
you
they're like,
ask, "I've
this
got
is
this
what works."
problem. What do I do?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, I tried this once. I tried this. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Sometimes this works. This is changing, and now we do it this way. It might work.
So
this,
nobody really has an understanding of how it works. They have best practices, probably,
right.
but not like.
There's a lot of mysteries out there.
Yeah, like why does this happen?
Right. And there's lots of problems with raising bees now because of pesticides and herbicides and radio
Well, I know
waves
that the pollinator issue,
viruses.
There's not enough pollinator spots, right? Like, is that true? Like, I mean, you're
there's-
having to drive all the way out into the woods to get the pollinator.
But we're only doing that because we're trying to facilitate them making more honey than they need. So honey bees make honey because
so
that's
you're
their
a slave
food to
driver.
live.
I get it.
Don't start with that.
I get it.
Vegans are going to be calling
Yeah.
me. You're facilitating. So if they need more space, rather than having them swarm, which has a 10% success rate of swarm naturally finding their own home, if you split them ahead of time, make a second hive, you've just kept those bees in your location. You're going to have more honey, but you've also saved those bees. You've given them from a 10% success rate to 60 or 70% success rate. So we're working to, make the bees' life better, easier. We're
What is
treating
the
them for
lifespan of a
viruses.
bee?
This is a good question. 500 miles.
It's a lifespan
What?
of a
So,
bee.
so they don't. In the winter, they live all winter because they never leave the hive, or they very rarely leave the hive. In the summer, it's like 3 weeks
Wow.
because they're flying all the time. They just burn themselves out. And they work through like 5 or 7 different jobs, right, in that 3 weeks.
If a bee gets sick,
Wow.
can you give it a bit of honey and make it better? I've heard that.
Well, they have honey. They have access to honey all the time because there's always honey in the hive. We never take all the honey. We never.
You
so
leave
there's
it,
always
yeah.
honey there. But they'll get sick from things that honey is not going to fix too.
Okay.
Like there's viruses,
because they
lots.
don't.
Well, I guess the pesticides too is probably.
It's a challenging, people that have backyard gardens or whatever, and they say, "Oh, I want to get chickens and bees." I'm like, get chickens. You just give them corn and wheat, and keep raccoons from killing them, and hawks and whatever else,
I know
and it's
successful.
fine. Yeah. Bees is a big deal. Like you lose sleep, the whole colony collapses on you. They swarm. You do like a manipulation that you think is the right thing to do, and then at night you're like, man, that was the wrong thing to do. I should have done this, but it's too late, and it's just it's an ongoing thing.
Is there a small way
deal.
to get into it that's not so intimidating, or is it all in? And
no,
you've got to do everything.
You got to do everything.
It's
all in. And I mean, you get 2 hives. One hive, if it's in trouble or if it's failing or the queen is not doing well, you don't have any resources. Like if you have 2 hives, you can share the resources. So if one hive, the queen dies, you can take fresh eggs from the other hive, put it in that hive, and they'll make another queen. Yeah. If you have one hive and it's in trouble, there's nothing you can do, but it's just going to go downhill. If you have 2, one stronger, one weaker, you can take resources from the strong one and give it to the weak one. So that's the smart way to start, and that's the easy way is, 2 hives. Now, but it goes on and on and on. It's never easy.
Is it
so rewarding though? So cool.
Good job when you're retired.
Yeah, you need to have time for sure.
So that's my next question is about the economic return. Mm-hmm. So like painters, for example, like if you're a good painter, I think you might charge like $2 an inch or something, and that's, so you're spending the amount of time it takes you to paint, 50 inches of painting that you can sell for $1,000 or whatever. Then it's like, what am I making per hour doing this business? Like just bring it down to the business case of it. Obviously it's a passion case too. So how many hours does it take relative to the return? Is it 70% labor? Is it 50% labor? 30%?
I mean, the cost itself is big. Like to set up a hive is $1,000, right? Yeah. So that's the bees, the frames, the wood, whatever. So you got 10 frames, it's a lot of money, right? $10,000 to get that going, and then you're always replacing it and new wax and changing out your equipment and cleaning it. And what I call it for me is it's a free hobby. Right. I love the hobby. I love doing it. I love the activity. It gives me access to the woods. Yeah. And I don't pay for it. Let's put it that way. So that's the profit. There is no profit.
Yeah. So 100%.
But it's I don't know anybody with the free hobby. That's like doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. So it's work, but it's a passion. It's something I love doing. I'm super interested in it.
And I get enjoyment. Selling the honey too, I would imagine, right?
People love it. There's not a lot of good honey out there because honey's, the second or third most bastardized product?
There's
olive oil, and I don't know what the second one is, but third one's honey, right? Because it's adulterated with corn syrup, rice syrup. It's a product that has a lot of cachet to it. There's honey in everything right now, honey in the tea, honey in your cough drops, whatever. So if you can fake honey and say there's honey and stuff, it's a very good way to make money. So
is there
globally, it's a big deal.
Like a pirated
It's pirated, mislabeled. It won't be honey. Like if you find honey that doesn't crystallize, it's not honey really.
Yeah.
So that grocery store stuff, the squeezy, whatever.
Yeah, it's just there.
It's just there. It's a huge portion of it is bastardized. So corn syrup, rice syrup is a big one because you can't test for it. Yeah. There's labs in Germany that do testing on honey to find out exactly where it comes from. But if you ultra pasteurize it, you can't find it where it comes from. So that's what a lot of big producers do. And I'm not talking about Canadian producers. I'm talking about global producers.
Have you heard of the test for purity for honey, not for you? Where
there'll be purity tests now.
Purity, I got my purity ring on.
That's why we let you in. If you take a plate, put a little bit of water in and a drop of honey, and kind of mix it around, the honey will form into a honeycomb shape in the water. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Huh. There's something for you to look into.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
Does it?
And it seems to work every time with real honey.
Real honey is very thick, so it's actually hard to mix with water. Like cold water is really hard. No, just
It would
stick to
sink.
the plate and
Oh,
sink.
yeah,
sink.
yeah.
You
It's
kind
heavier.
of have to
Yeah.
mix
It's
it
heavier than
in
water.
with
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
little pick or something, and then it will form itself into is it a hexagon?
Hexagon. Yeah.
What's the nutritional value of honey? Like, what is in it?
Cures everything. I don't know.
No,
It's-
but is it like protein? Is it carbohydrate? Is it sugar? Is sugar is carbohydrate?
One of the reasons that a lot of people eat it for a health perspective is the allergen kind of sets
Like
you up for
immune building?
Yeah, because it has pollen and little bits of plant material from a lot of different plants. So
Yeah.
people that have allergies to certain things, hay fever or whatever, they will eat local honey from their area, right? So a lot of people honestly buy it. Like, it's just from the city, is it from our neighborhood, whatever, for their kids or themselves or whatever.
So it's a medicinal
Yeah.
kind of component.
Yeah.
Does it spike your blood sugar? Like, is it like a sugar?
It's sugar, so
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you
You don't
drink
know
it.
the answer to this.
It's an antibacterial, antiviral too.
For sure
isn't
it is. Yeah. People
Like
use it on wounds
strong,
and
right?
and it never spoils, like, ever.
Like, I
People say-
saw I saw it somewhere, like about the nutritional change in fruit, like apples specifically.
Right.
Like, an apple like 50 years ago was 100% more nutritious than an apple today.
Right,
Like, it's
okay.
like lost 50% of its nutritional value. I don't know how you do that or what you tested or whatever, but I guess I would think like pure honey,
Yeah.
there would be no degradation. I don't know why there's degradation. I guess it's probably to do with like cloning or
Right.
pesticides
Yeah.
or some sort of like
Just growing the same genetics over and over
Yeah,
again
and
on
it
the
just
same
sort of, like,
land.
weakens,
probably.
I
Yeah.
guess.
We're not yet messing around too much with bees. If it's honey, it's honey. If it's not, it's not, right? Like, they collect nectar and turn it into honey in their bodies when they're processing it, when they're transporting it.
and it's hard to you can't fake
You
it.
can't. Well, you can.
Oh, I guess you can fake it,
Most
but you
people
can't.
do.
Yeah, no, they all fake it.
Yeah.
But you can't replicate it, I guess, in its natural.
No, I don't think
Occurrence,
so.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And another question I have about this is very fascinating to me. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's fascinating to other people, but the what was I going to ask? I just lost my thought.
Well, it was fascinating.
It was fascinating, and I just went.
I got a business discussion about beekeeping. So most large beekeeping operations survive on pollination services, not honey, because honey doesn't have the value that it should have.
That's what I was going to talk to you about.
But so in the States, without pollination services, I won't say primarily, but a huge portion of it is like almond trees in California.
Yeah.
So people raise bees in Texas to truck them to California to pollinate almond groves, which is not a great thing because it's a monoculture. It's not great for the bees.
What does that do to the bees?
They just have no.
I've heard it's really
from a
terrible,
health
but-
perspective, they just have no variation in pollen or nectar, and because they've taken out all the hedgerows and the ditches and all that sort of thing. So there's none of this
there's no-
like side
yes.
stuff to mix into what they're having. It's just hundreds and hundreds of acres of
Like
almond, monoculture.
Yeah.
So without pollination services, I mean, at my level, it's not, honey, it can break even and it's great and I super enjoy it. And lots of other small producers, I'm sure, on the islands, but bigger places like in the prairies and, all the cranberry bogs and stuff like that. So there's not enough natural pollinators around
diversity.
because of expansion of population in urban areas and taking down these hedgerows.
That's exactly what I was going to talk about, because I hear about like we've got gardens beside Big Wheel Burger that were kind of like growing some like herbs and stuff like that, and we switched them to pollinator.
Yeah.
Primarily because there's a lack of diversity in the pollination in
Right.
like that urban landscape, right? So trying to promote more pollinators in the environment so that bees can actually have a diverse, draw
Yeah,
pollen,
yeah.
right?
And cities aren't that bad compared to, because there's trees, there's
Yeah.
plants, there's gardens, there's botanical gardens, but in the prairies or some areas in California or large agricultural areas, there's just miles and miles and miles of one thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
swaths of them.
it's not so bad in Canada, I don't think at all, but in those areas of the States. And bees kind of can become disposable at that point. Like, it's so much work to get them through the winter, they just let them die. This is a big generalization, but a lot of people just let them die because it's not worth the
Cost effective
labor
to
to keep them alive. Then they start again, and then just
Because you're talking
transport
about
them places.
massive colonies.
Yeah, you're talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of hives.
Wow.
Right, where people put them on transport trucks and drive them and drop them by the pallet full all over people's orchards and stuff. So it's a big business that is what keeps honey production alive. But the honey production is just a sideline.
Yeah, it's not. They probably even let some honey just go too, right? Do they dump it, or because there's an effort in cultivating it, I guess. Or
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you can just make money
extracting.
by extracting for sure, and packaging and delivery, it's heavy and all that sort of stuff. But transporting bees is it's a big deal.
Well, transport in anything is what the main cost.
Yeah.
Like we just pay.
And if they're driving it from Texas and then not seeing the value of keeping the bees or driving them back to Texas, they are just kind of abandoning them, aren't they?
Right. It happens.
Wow.
Yeah. On a large scale, it's not uncommon for sure.
So I don't buy almond milk for my shops for a lot of reasons.
Right.
Bees being one of them.
Right.
The other is
The
water.
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 Yeah, the amount of water that's used.
Yeah. So there's another reason not to drink almond milk. Stick to cow milk. It's good.
I like eating almonds, but it's true. Well, even the pecans, like those shelled pecans, in California, the company that makes majority of the pecans pistachios.
Right.
They've control like 60% of the water in California.
I've got a
One
serious
family.
question about that. Is that true for both the green and the red pistachios?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay.
We make up facts on our show. But a lot of water. And that's obviously, the climate kind of changing sort of questions and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's where the pollinator comes in too, because climate is affecting that, and also food. So, we want to try to build a robust food, sustainable thing, like supporting local farmers is part of that. Trying to find new ways. We've got, we're pretty heavily invested in the fed urban agriculture, fed garden that we've got on Bay Street, off of Bay Street, and we're going to be doing one hopefully in Naden. Airport's looking at doing one as well. And trying to produce as many pounds of like greens and other vegetables as possible.
Yeah,
which,
great.
It's cool, but pollination and pollinators are part of that
Right.
ecosystem too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how it's all connected.
Bees are a huge part of it. Honeybees is just one type of bee, right?
Yeah.
There's hundreds of types of wild bees that are, they're also
Doing their bit.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're also in
Spreading
trouble because of pesticides and expansion of urban areas and all that sort of thing. But bees and pollinators, honeybees is one of them, but there's lots of other bees. But without bees, generally, we all know the stats on what it is, 70% or something of our fruit and 80% of our vegetables or something you won't have without bees. And that's not just honeybees, that's all bees.
No, all the bees in general, which is
it's crazy.
It's interesting about the focus, but I think part of it is drawing attention and education, right? So people can kind of start thinking about it a little bit and supporting it where they can. Or you're doing part of that too.
Yeah, we have great people.
Yeah.
We have great support. Customers are so excited to buy local honey.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
And-
I'm gonna
and they
start
know
eating. I mean, I'm not a fan of honey, like
Right.
in general, because I also thought maybe it spikes my blood sugar or whatever. But I like the idea of the
microdose it maybe. Get your drop. get your dropper out.
bro.
I mean,
Stop
clean
microdosing,
your dropper.
I'll buy you a new dropper.
I'll be like, oh man, I just had some honey. It's really good stuff.
Seeing stars again.
Yeah, no.
It's that special honey. What have they been pollinating from?
Oh, that's awesome, Andrew. Thank you for.
Well, thanks for
being a
having me,
part.
guys. Good chatting with
Man,
you.
we could have talked about so many other things. We could have
Yeah,
talked
we-
about hunting. We could have talked about,
Ooh, man.
food preservation. We could have talked about gardening.
We could literally probably
Lots
talk
of
for
stuff.
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have Andrew back on the show.
It's lunchtime.
It's
Gotta go to Big Wheel.
right?
or to have a coffee at 2% chance.
Oh, you just had one here. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to have lunch
Thank you
at
for that.
Zambri's actually.
Nice.
Are you?
Yeah,
Heard of it.
yeah. It's a little Italian place down the street.
I haven't been there since my son left.
Oh, is there an issue?
I'm not telling you.
Ah!
No, he's,
Every time
he's,
he leaves, there's an issue.
Yeah.
he's traveling in Europe right
He'll be back.
He's
now.
Yeah.
He
Whenever
probably
you say
will.
bye to Peter,
He
it's,
will be back.
It's never goodbye. It's always until next time.
Exactly.
Until
Yeah.
you're 2 years older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll come
Every
back in
time
2
he
years.
comes, yeah.
Fantastic.
He always has a home here.
Aw.
Peter's awesome.
really
guy.
good, because that means that releases me from my duties.
Yes.
That I don't have to offer him my home.
No, exactly.
Perfect.
He's always got a home here. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with all your adventures.
Yeah,
and,
thanks.
Let's have you back on.
We'll
and
keep
we
busy.
want to talk about pheasant hunting.
Yeah, all the hunting.
And,
Yeah.
or all the hunting. What other things do you hunt?
Well, everything.
Moose?
Everything that's here.
Oh, you've done like
Moose,
the whole
deer, grouse,
Oh, my
ducks,
goodness.
rabbits.
I always see you pheasant hunting.
Well, that's just because we dress up fancy. and
Yeah,
we like that.
yeah. I know, and I'm like never been invited. So
It's true.
Have you
Why
got
is that?
special pheasant hunting gear?
Nobody wants. I don't know. Maybe I have been invited, or maybe
We dress up
I
like
could
Brits.
insert myself. Probably.
You know a few people.
Yeah.
I got a quick story, because it's about pheasant hunting and dosing. So
Oh.
many years ago, I'm on Pender Island with my friends. We live there. I'm a cook there. We all share this place. It's full moon. We're out on high as kites on mushrooms, running through South Pender Island, crossing people's fields, jumping over fences. And one of my friends, Ty, a big Samoan guy, jumped over a fence, and he landed and he squished this pheasant. And he's like, I killed it. I hunted a pheasant. And we take it back to the cabin.
That's impressive. Never
And
heard of
we strip it all down somehow. I don't really remember.
Yes.
And we cook it, and something's not right. We're just not figuring out why it's not cooking properly. We take it out of the oven, we cut it open, and it's just black on the inside. Absolutely, my friend Ty never
Crushed
hunted that. He just sat on a dead one.
Oh, that's why.
That's nasty.
So, lesson learned.
That is nasty.
Never go hunting pheasants on mushrooms.
Right?
Or never think that you have gone hunting for
Well,
pheasants on
Wow.
mushrooms.
Successfully. Yeah.
You can't step on a pheasant. That's the other thing, unless it's been dead.
Right?
Like you're not hunting pheasant by stepping on it.
Stepping on a dead one doesn't count as
That's
hunting.
impressive. And
you
cleaning
imagine?
it and knowing it's not a dead, rotten pheasant.
Right?
That's impressive as well.
It was
that's
the middle of
high
the night,
part.
too.
Yeah, that's the high part.
That was the dose part.
Oh my God! Awesome.
And on that happy note,
On
Yeah.
that happy note.
Good tale.
Yeah.
Oh my
It was a real
goodness.
pleasure having you.
Pleasure
here,
to be here.
and,
Thanks, guys.
man, you just talk forever about stuff.
And next week we've got the owner of Origin Bakery.
Yeah, Tara Black's
Tara
going to be
Black's
here.
gonna be here
That's
too,
going to be
so
also a
Nice.
great conversation.
Fantastic.
Yeah, another stalwart in our industry, and look forward to that. Sam, remember to be kind.
I will if you be nice.
Cheers.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bread and Butter Collective's membership includes the following local businesses: 2% Jazz, Bunny's Kitchen, Buzz Coffee House, Eagle-Ite, Big Wheel Burger, Blue Mountain Solutions, Bodega Tapas Wine Bar, Eva Schnitzel House, Farmsgate Foods and Catering, Victoria Chocolate and Company, Drum Roaster Coffee, Habit Coffee, Foo Asian Street Food, the Culinary Arts Program at Camosun, Cafe Fantastico, Fall Epi, Harold Street Brewworks, Hey Happy, House of Botang, Nikkei Ramen Ya, Jenny Marie's Cracker Company, La Pasta, La Rue Patisserie, Mocha House, Part and Parcel, Poco a Pinto Bar, Pizzeria Prima Strada, Keating Pizza, Roast, Table 9 Consulting, Sherwood Cafe and Bar, Sweets by Selena, The Collective Wine Bar and Kitchen, The Drake, Tapa Bar, The Nimble Bar Company, Ruth and Dean, The Whole Beast, The Wienery, Spoon's Diner, Truffles Inspired Catering, and Zambries.
To hear more from the Bread and Butter Collective, go to checknews.ca/podcasts on Check Plus, or find us on your favorite podcasting platform.